for 10 hours Eastern European time to radar tracks detached from a NATO air patrol. They are orbiting 80 nautical miles west of Kaliningrad. Their transponders remain in standby, cruising at 31.0 feet and 0.8 Mach. The aircraft turn northeast, angling toward the Suwalki corridor. They are F-35A Lightning II fighters operating in low probability of intercept radar mode. Their movement is not an attack. It is a trigger, 300 kilometers east. Inside Russia's Western Military District Command Network, long-range surveillance radar is tied to the S-400 architecture register intermittent returns. Returns consistent with low observable platforms. Detection range is uncertain, between 45 and 70 kilometers depending on aspect angle. Track confidence fluctuates, between 58 and 63%. It is not enough for automatic engagement. This is how the war plan begins, not with missiles, but with ambiguity. For 16 hours, a U.S. Air Force RC-135 Rivet joint orbiting over Poland. It refines the electronic picture. Emissions from Russian 9 to N-60 fire-controlled radar spike briefly, before collapsing back into passive mode. The Russian commanders face their first dilemma. Activate continuous fire control illumination and risk anti-radiation targeting, but remain passive, and concede airspace initiative. Simultaneously, 1,200 kilometers to the north in the Norwegian Sea, two Arleberg-class destroyer vessels adjust formation spacing to 9 nautical miles. Therein, SPY-1DV radars remain in long-range search mode. Beneath the surface, a Virginia-class submarine maintains 18 knots at 150 meters depth, holding launch authorization for Tomahawk Block V cruise missiles with a range exceeding 900 nautical miles. The submariner's clock is synchronized to the second with airborne assets over Eastern Europe. For 22 hours, Russian coastal defense units in Kaliningrad elevate readiness levels for the Bastion P system armed with P-800 Onyx anti-ship missiles. Each missile travels at approximately Mach 2.5 with the sea-skimming terminal phase. At 10 to 15 meters altitude, their cost per round is estimated near $3 million. Reload time per launcher, 15 to 20 minutes under optimal conditions. The United States war plan accounts for this. The initial objective is not territorial seizure. It is anti-access degradation. For 27 hours, cyber units operating from U.S. Cyber Command initiate pre-position access measures against Russian military logistics networks in the Western Military District. The goal is latency, milliseconds inserted into data exchanges between sensor nodes and command centers, individually insignificant, collectively disruptive. In Kaliningrad, an S-400 battalion commander receives fragmented radar returns, indicating possible inbound standoff weapons. Range, 210 kilometers. Speed, subsonic, approximately 480 knots. Profile consistent with cruise missiles. Engagement window with for 8 and 6 interceptors, 90 seconds from firm track to launch decision. Probability of kill against low observable cruise missile at low altitude, 0.55 per interceptor. He must decide whether to fire early with incomplete tracking data or wait for confirmation. And risk saturation. He orders a ripple launch for interceptors. For 31 hours, for Tomahawk missiles are destroyed 35 kilometers from the coast, but they were not the main wave. They were pathfinders. 90 seconds later, 12 additional Tomahawks approach from 3 separate azimuths, northwest, west, and southwest, forcing Russian radar systems to divide tracking capacity. The geometry matters, as for OO batteries can guide multiple interceptors simultaneously, but engagement channels are finite. Saturation is not about volume alone. It is about timing. To Tomahawk strike a fixed radar site associated with early warning coverage. Another impacts a logistics depot housing reload vehicles for air defense batteries. A fourth targets a fiber optic junction linking Kaliningrad's air defense network to mainland. Physical damage is limited. Functional disruption is immediate. For 36 hours, the F-35 formation increases speed to 0.9 to Mach and descends to 24,000 feet, positioning just outside confirmed S-400. Engagement envelopes. Each aircraft carries to AGM-158 JAS SMR missiles internally. Range, 500 nautical miles. Cost per unit, near $1.5 million. Their task is suppression of enemy air defenses through precision strike, not dogfight. Inside Russia's Air Defense Command Center, a senior officer now confronts a broader dilemma. He can concentrate surviving radar assets to protect fixed installations in Kaliningrad or redistribute them to defend forward deployed Iskander missile brigades positioned 70 kilometers inland. The Iskander M system, with a range up to 500 kilometers and quasi-ballistic maneuvering trajectory, represents Russia's primary conventional strike capability against NATO staging areas. If he protects the Iskanders, he risks losing radar dominance over the coast. If he protects the coast, he exposes the Iskanders to standoff attack. He chooses to defend the missile brigades. For 42 hours, US F-35s released JASSMR missiles from 420 nautical miles away, outside the densest air defense rings. The missiles descend to terrain following altitude at approximately 50 meters above ground level, navigating via GPS and imaging infrared seekers. Time to target, 38 minutes. This decision forces Russian commanders to reposition short-range systems such as Pantsir S-1 units to guard critical nodes, but repositioning creates coverage gaps elsewhere. Mobile systems in transit cannot fire effectively. Meanwhile, 600 kilometers to the south, U.S. Army units in Poland activate Patriot batteries. They're an MPQ-65 radar scan eastward, prepared to intercept potential Iskander retaliation. Each PAC-3 interceptor has a range of approximately 35 kilometers against ballistic targets, with a hit-to-kill mechanism. Probability of intercept against a maneuvering Iskander estimated between 0.4 and 0.6 depending on engagement geometry. Multiple interceptors per target are required. For 50 hours, Russian early warning satellites detect increased infrared signatures from NATO airfields. Additional aircraft are launching F-15E Strike Eagles armed with anti-radiation missiles, and Beta Spirit bombers departing from forward operating locations. The pattern suggests escalation, but the second layer of the war plan has not yet been revealed. For 58 hours, U.S. Space Command assets begin coordinated electronic attack against Russian military satellite communications in the Western Theater. Jamming is selective and temporary, focused on downlink frequencies used for targeting updates. The effect is subtle, but consequential. Latency in data relay between reconnaissance satellites and ground units increases from near real-time to several seconds. In high-speed missile engagements, seconds determine survival. At 5:03 hours, the first wave of JASSMR missiles reaches Kaliningrad airspace. Russian air defenses, already taxed by earlier cruise missile engagements, engage aggressively. 7 missiles are intercepted. 5 penetrate to strike hardened aircraft shelters. 1 impacts a command post bunker, collapsing its above-ground entry points. Another destroys a mobile radar in transit, the S-400. Network remains functional, but fragmented. Now the Russian commander faces a retaliatory decision. Launch Iskander missiles against NATO air bases in Poland and Lithuania, accepting near-certain Patriot engagement and potential escalation beyond conventional thresholds, or hold fire to preserve strategic ambiguity. He authorizes a limited salvo of Iskanders at 5:12 hours for missiles arc westward, at speeds exceeding Mach 6, maneuvering unpredictably during terminal phase. Patriot batteries detect and engage at 28 kilometers. 8 PAC-3 interceptors launch in pairs. 2 Iskanders are destroyed. 1 is deflected off course. The 4th impacts an airfield runway near Lublin, creating a crater 12 meters wide and temporarily halting operations. The exchange remains contained but barely. The U.S. war plan now transitions to its third phase, maritime denial. In the Barents Sea, additional U.S. naval forces position to threaten Russia's northern fleet bastions. The objective is not immediate engagement. It is to force resource reallocation. Russian naval aviation and coastal missile systems must divide attention between Baltic vulnerabilities and Arctic defense. Resource division weakens concentration. At 5:30, Beta bombers approach launch points beyond the densest radar coverage. Each carries GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators intended not for urban targets, but for hardened ammunition depots and underground storage facilities supporting missile brigades. Release altitude, 40,000 feet. Airspeed, 0.85 Mach. Russian air defenses attempt long-range engagements, but stealth profiles compress detection ranges below optimal firing solutions. To penetrators impact a fortified storage site housing Iskander reloads. Secondary explosions indicate stored propellant ignition. The initial F-35 movement for 10 hours now reveals its purpose. It was never about air superiority alone. It was about triggering radar activation, mapping response patterns, and identifying priority defense sectors before the main strike. The operation demonstrates layered timing, cruise missile saturation to fragment radar networks, standoff stealth launches to degrade mobile assets, cyber and space disruption to slow command cycles, and limited ballistic exchanges to test defensive thresholds. By 6 o'clock hours, both sides reassess. Russia retains substantial combat power. Strategic rocket forces remain untouched. Long-range aviation remains operational. But Western military district assets in Kaliningrad have suffered degraded air defense coverage, reduced missile reload capacity, and compromised command nodes. The United States has demonstrated the ability to penetrate and disrupt anti-access systems without committing ground forces. Yet vulnerabilities are exposed as well. Patriot intercept inventories are finite. Airfield damage, even limited, constrains sortie generation rates. Naval forces operating within reach of Bastion P systems remain at risk if Russian targeting coherence is restored. The broader strategy becomes visible only in aggregate. The war plan is not designed for territorial conquest. It is designed to dismantle layers of anti-access infrastructure in sequential phases, forcing Russia to choose between protecting missile forces, defending coastal assets, or preserving strategic ambiguity. Each defensive choice exposes another vulnerability. By mid-morning, NATO political leadership confronts escalation thresholds. Continued strikes could expand into mainland Russian territory, risking strategic response. Pausing operations preserves gains but allows Russia time to reconstitute defenses. Markets react. Civil aviation reroutes. Additional NATO forces deploy eastward. The operational window narrows. In the final assessment, the opening hours reveal a doctrine built on synchronization across domains air, sea, cyber, and space intended to compress decision timelines and overload integrated defenses through geometry rather than mass alone. The first radar contact for 10 hours was not an isolated maneuver. It was a deliberate provocation to illuminate systems designed to remain hidden. Once illuminated, they were measured. Once measured, they were targeted. The conflict remains conventional. Strategic forces remain in reserve. But the balance of initiative shifts with each disrupted radar node and each intercepted missile. Inside hardened bunkers on both sides, commanders study updated maps. Engagement envelopes shrink and expand with each loss. Inventory counts are recalculated, probabilities reassessed. This is not total war. It is controlled degradation, and the calculation had changed.